The world has never changed faster and will never change slower. Welcome to the We Are Future series, where we get to talk to global thought leaders and industry experts on all things digital, technology and innovation, and how it impacts the way we live, work, act and interact. Now tune in for those candid conversations and be part of creating the future of work.
Okay, so I'm so happy to welcome my next guest. I have McIntyre on the line with us, and the reason why I'm so excited about having Mia with us is she's been really working the future of work concept for a while now. Her whole business model is built on being able to work remotely, setting up your teams and your business so that you can operate it completely online, and she's been doing that for a number of years now. She's leveraged offshoring as well as, some of the systems that she's either created or helped optimize. And that's essentially what she does as a business, is she goes in and helps clients determine what in their business they can optimize so that they can either scale themselves out or start to build more growth into their business. But essentially, if we're thinking about future of work, it comes down to just having that flexibility and be able to have an environment where people are able to work remotely and still be productive and still perform to their optimum levels. So I'm really excited to hear some of her insights based on what she's doing, but also what she's seeing or working on in this business. So I could keep talking, but I would love for Mia to sort of let us know, well, I guess, what are your key things this year that you've been focusing on? And, in your words, what have you been really driving in terms of this space?
Yeah, so hello everyone for starters. Look, I think the key thing is an obvious one, which is automation. So an optimization of that automation. So there's so many different elements and different stages of automation where you can sort of look at building out a fully automated system from go to woe, or you can, which actually takes quite some time regardless of what it is that you're automating, or you can sort of go with a part automated, part manual approach, which is a lot easier for businesses to start with. It's a lot more cost effective. Just in general, people looking at their business processes and taking that next step. I think we've had access to some really good tools for long enough now, 12 months to 24 months, and in some cases even 3 to 4 years. And so people are getting more familiar with the technologies and they're ready to take it to that next step. So we're sort of seeing that businesses, are now taking the leap to start to automate things, either part automation or fully automated in their businesses, which is really exciting. But it's a lot of homework and it's a lot of work for people to set up. So it's a pretty big commitment, but that's probably the main thing we've been focusing on and helping with.
That's cool. And I know, and we've had this conversation in previous years where our paths have crossed, where we've talked about that relationship between offshoring and automation, that both of those strategies essentially is helping people scale or become more cost effective in their business model. Have you seen any particular changes or innovations in either of those spaces that have really made an impact to your industry?
I guess it's a constant evolution, isn't it? So, I think because I've been in it for a while, there's been nothing that's sort of hit me to go, wow, this is a big key change, but it's just slowly getting better and becoming second nature. So I think, again, 24 months ago or a bit longer, it was quite like you're a small to medium-sized business and you're using offshoring, that's interesting, sign an extra legal contract or, whatever it might be. But people expect it now. It's becoming a little bit more second nature for people to use offshoring, and they're not so afraid of it, which we knew was going to come. So through that acceptance, it has resulted in, advancements of what can be done and what's being offshored, and just really it boils down to just building some really good relationships with people that aren't in the same country. So, my team now, it's like they're like my family. Like, I honestly just, they know all, everything that's going on, and they're really comfortable with providing me with solutions. So the advancement there, or the change there, is a relationship-based one where the confidence and the relationship has built to a point where they're actually providing value back into the business, as opposed to just doing tasks that are requested of them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And would you say, and I want to touch on this as well, because I know you're quite experienced in this space as well, that remote working lifestyle, I think if people aren't doing that now, they're yearning for it, either in their current roles or looking for opportunities where they are able to have a bit more flexibility or freedom in how they work and when they work and so on. So have you... I know that's part of what you do indirectly, even as you help people develop that within their business. If someone was trying to do that for themselves, either as a business leader or as an employee in that working space, what would you say would be the first step to that, or what would be the first, I guess, phase for them to start moving into?
So look, there's a couple of elements to that, I think. If you are an employee looking to, work in a more flexible or remote environment, obviously it's not just about finding the job that lets you do that. You actually have to consciously change your mindset. It is completely different. Some people actually aren't built to work remotely. And so a caveat to that is, remote work doesn't mean you're sitting on an island somewhere sipping cocktails whilst working. Remote work actually is more about you being, yes, flexible with where you're working from, but it's actually about getting out and about there and being more accessible to more people. So instead of being fixed in one location, it's about you going and being in lots of different locations, or having that as an option. And so it actually makes you a lot more accessible and appealing, because you're willing to do that. So yeah, remote work, it's not all Coke and chips. It's quite intense if you really take it literally. But yeah, it does open the doors up. So yeah, you've got to change your mindset. You've got to be really flexible, open to different styles of work, different personality types. You've got to be a self-starter. You've got to be motivated. You can't rely on other people to tell you what to do. You need to have that initiative. And so there's nothing wrong with not being that person. Like, if you're really good, if you're a workhorse and you're just good at doing what you're told, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you've got to have that right mindset. That's the first thing, whether it's your business or whether you're going to work for someone else in that space. And then if you're a business owner, on the flip side, looking to outsource or use remote workers, whether they're onshore or offshore, you need to also change your mindset and make sure that you've got brilliant systems and processes, because you're not there to stand over someone's shoulder and explain to them, this is what I mean. Of course, we've got online tools and stuff, but you need to have a base. So you need your systems and your processes, really well aligned to what you're wanting to achieve. And you need to make sure that you're focused on the bottom line, not on how they get there. So if you're going to start hiring staff, make sure that you pick up that they're self-starters, that they're motivated, that they've got a few runs on the board in regards to, taking initiative. And then also make sure that you're not going to be a micromanager and, follow their every move. You need to let them do what they need to do. But as long as you're really clear on deadlines and the bottom line and what the outcome needs to be, then, yeah, that's the best place to start.
That's cool. I have to say it's the first time I've heard anyone describe it as Coke and chips, but I'm totally going to steal that. And
there's so many different ones. There's like rainbows and lollipops. There's all sorts. But yeah, Coke and chips. I mean, who doesn't love a soft drink?
I think we can all relate to Coke and chips, so that's why I love it. That's so cool. But yeah, I guess bringing it back to task, you brought up some really good insights there in terms of its mindset. I think that will really resonate with a lot of listeners in regards to, they look at the outcome and therefore the lifestyle, but in actual fact, there's some real different skill sets or intrinsic values you also need to create or already have to have in order to be successful at it. And so one thing we probably haven't touched on, because you are a leader in your business, has your leadership style, you kind of touched on this, and I'd love to explore it a little bit more, where you were talking about, you don't want to be micromanaging or looking over their shoulder. There's got to be a level of trust in that, based on just the idea of remote working. But as a leader, has your leadership style or any of your skill sets had to change in order to sustain, that same mantra, I guess?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I guess it's all about your initial experience with it. So I was lucky because I was actually being employed as a remote employee first. So I really have come from understanding it from both perspectives. So I've had that, I've been lucky in that regard. So I started working for someone who I hadn't met until like 9 months into the employment. And so I got it from the other perspective, and I was lucky enough to have someone who already had pretty good leadership style, that really helped me, see, I guess, a really good example. But there were obviously learnings. So I discovered that, as funny as it sounds, you think that there's some things you can back off on when you're working remotely, but what you absolutely must do is have clarity, whether you're receiving a task or giving a task, as a leader or as a team member, looking for that leadership or that guidance. It's got to be clarity. You've got to be clear. Your people cannot read your mind. They cannot see your body language. They cannot, all they can do is sense potentially a unimagined or incorrect tone in an email or a message. They can't pick up on those subtleties. So you've got to be so clear and be really, really heightened in your communication. So you can't expect people to get it right if you don't explain it to them. And I can tell you now, anytime something hasn't gone to plan for my business, and, with my team, it's been because I haven't given clear instructions or I haven't given a deadline clearly. So, yeah, it is, I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just clarity.
Yeah, cool. And, I mean, that's another thing. I guess when we think about the future of work, the same way it makes us more accessible to potential partners, businesses, jobs and opportunities, it also opens up as leaders a talent pool, i.e. a global workforce that maybe we didn't have potential to attract before. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, and knowing that you've had some experience with different cultures and talking about that clarity and being able to communicate, how has that impacted when you're working with people from different countries, different time zones and things like that? Have you noticed that culture plays a really big part to how effective that is, or not so much? Or, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it's funny, before I go into that, something else to note at that point is if you're able to set yourself up to work with remote staff, you'll find that you'll open yourself up to work with remote clients.
Yeah.
And so
Cool.
It doesn't just open up your talent pool for staff, it opens up your opportunity pool for clients. And it's just like this universal thing. Like, as soon as I set up my remote team, or because I already had that, like, I've had international clients from the get-go. And I don't know whether it's the terminology that I use when in my LinkedIn or whatever, but I actually have 3 clients in America, and there's a couple of others obviously in different parts. But so it definitely has an impact not only on who you hire but who you work with.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But yeah, as far as cultures go, look, I think, as I mentioned before, about 3 or 4 years ago, when it was a bit more taboo, I think we were less comfortable because people were less comfortable with us using it. And now that it's become second nature, it's like those barriers on those walls have come down a little bit. So I know that particularly with my Indian team, it's just they're just like family. Like, we joke around, we carry on. And obviously that comes with the team now being with me for over 2 years. But it's more just, I think everything's just relaxed a bit, and we're a lot more engaged with our different cultures that we're dealing with. Doesn't mean that there's still not impacts. I think everyone still needs to be culturally sensitive to, what things mean, the way we approach things. But I think as a whole, the world is getting smaller, and we are assimilating, I guess, a little bit to each other's way of working.
Yeah, cool. And so for you, Mia, I would love to know, what are you personally excited about, whether it's in your industry, technologies you've seen, or even any new innovations or thinking that you're excited about coming that will impact the way that we work or the way that you do business? And that can be on a personal level or a professional level. Is there anything in particular that kind of comes to mind?
Yeah, look, and I'm going to go with something that's not too exciting, but what I am really thrilled about is that, and it's probably because of my personality, but I'm really looking forward to things being having more of a relationship focused. Like, we're all looking at the automation of technology. We're all looking at artificial intelligence and the different levels that that's coming into play. So we're about a year or two off, I think, or maybe a bit more. I was reading a book the other day by Michael McQueen. He's a trends analyst. And we're just not too far off hitting that next phase of artificial intelligence where it will match our intelligence and then supersede it. And they're really, really scary times. And I don't want to freak everyone out, but it is getting to a point where we, as a race, need to be really careful with what we're doing, because it is going to get hectic. And so one of the things that we've got advantage on technologies as individuals is to be able to have a really awesome relationship with people. You can automate things, you can systemize things, you can really strip all that stuff out and get a bot to do it or whatever. But now more than ever, we have the ability to have these wonderful relationships with people again and really focus on that. And so that's what's exciting to me, is engaging with people and focusing on that side of it.
Yeah, right. That is very cool. And like you said, a little bit scary that it's going to be within this lifetime. I think we all kind of know it. But then it's also, when you see it on paper or see that it's, not even within the next 5 years, it's actually less than that. People probably don't even realise it's actually around us now, and we've never just identified that AI or robots or any of that kind of technology is just part of what we do. So, yeah, interesting times, hey?
Mm-hmm. Very.
Yeah, cool. And so in terms of what you're up to this year, Mia, what is My Virtual? What have you got in the pipeline? What's happening for you that you'd love to share?
Well, we have lots of awesome new referral partners and clients. So we really focus on working with IT companies because they're really good at doing the really technical stuff, and most of them aren't awesome, bless them, at training. And that people side of it, right? So that's the bit that we're focusing on. So we're building on those relationships. We're helping IT companies do the bits they want to do. They're doing the bits that we don't necessarily want to do. And we're all working together for the greater outcome of the client, which is awesome. And then on a more personal business growth level, we are looking at doing more sort of ongoing support. So it's not just project-based stuff. We're going to, try and work with our clients over a longer period and really help them on that journey, as opposed to just doing pieces of work when they need us. We'll still do that, of course, but we want to try and, essentially have that subscription or ongoing stuff, because that's a better business model. So that's sort of our focus over the next 6 months or so.
Cool. And lastly, if people who are listening to this want to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to contact you? Through a website, through LinkedIn?
Yeah, either or. All the socials. I think the best is probably the website, the My Virtual, so MI Virtual, or LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn's great.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for your time, Mia. I really appreciate it. I hope anyone that's listening has gotten value from some of the insights that Mia has shared with us in regards to remote working and building businesses online. And looking forward to the next episode. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that wraps up another insightful conversation about the future of work. And now we want to hear from you. What was the biggest takeaway from this conversation? Make sure you share your learnings on LinkedIn and also tag our guest speakers. And of course, if you or somebody you know has some more interesting take on the future of work, send us an email to contact@wearefuture.com. Until next time, and keep creating the future of work.